Hello, my friend. Welcome to the Business Leadership Today podcast. I'm your host, Matt Tenney. In this podcast, we sit down with successful founders, CEOs, and other senior leaders and ask them about the most important problem they've solved. So both you and I can learn innovative, proven approaches to solving the most important problems in business today. My guest today is Alyssa Thach. Alyssa is the co-founder and CEO of PurePoint International, an organization that delivers custom recruitment process outsourcing and workforce solutions. To put that into simple terms for somebody like me, they help people attract and retain talent that is going to help drive their company forward, right? So Alyssa has over 20 years experience in recruitment and has delivered talent solutions that have increased revenue growth for Fortune 500 companies around the world. And within PurePoint, Alyssa has implemented a people-first approach that builds loyalty, resulting in 94% client retention and 91% internal staff retention for their company. So today, she's going to talk about how they do that despite a very, not unique totally, but a relatively unique challenge that they have to face in the talent industry that everyone faces from time to time, but in talent, I think they face it a lot more often. And she's going to talk about what that problem is and how she solved it, and how she's created this unbelievable high retention rate despite this challenge. So I hope you're as excited as I am about learning from Alyssa Thach. Alyssa, thank you so much for taking the time to be with me today on the Business Leadership Today podcast.
It's a pleasure to be with you and to be with your audience today.
Great. So Alyssa, before we get into the true gold here of this problem that you've solved, can you start off just by sharing a little bit about how you came to start PurePoint and what it is that your company does, in a little bit more detail?
Sure. I started as a practitioner in human resources and have always flexed between true HR business partner type of work, building company culture, being an advisor to senior leaders, and also at the same time recruiting and talent acquisition. And my own job was impacted in the um, uh, .com bubble. And I saw, one day there were a lot of work for recruiters. You couldn't find a recruiter to help you from hiring freezes in the tech industry, and so that has shifted. Created an idea to create PurePoint back then. And so that has always been the model. But how do we get cost efficiency? We can do it on a scale as an RPO with all of our tools, licenses, best practices, seeing different industries, and learning from all the various different industries, whether it's tech or healthcare or biotechnology or consumer products, bringing all of those together, bringing the best in class plans, processes, tools, and talented people, weaving them together to create such an amazing experience for our clients and our own internal team as well.
So it's really driven by, you saw this total vacuum right after the .com bubble burst. And it went from just recruiters everywhere to you couldn't even find one, and figuring out like, oh man, how do you solve that? How do you deal with that? And so that's what your business has been all about, right? Is how do you survive and thrive given some of that cyclical nature? Now,
Yes,
I'd
correct.
imagine, based on our conversation before and that description of your business, that's probably the biggest problem you faced, right? Is how would you describe the biggest problem you faced as a founder and CEO?
Yeah, so as a founder and CEO, you're expected to do a lot, to be everything to everyone. And that's a lot of expectations because you have a responsibility. I kind of look at it as a responsibility to the people that work for me, and a responsibility to my clients. And so it's all about how do we um, engage and attract and keep the best talent we have. And some of the our team members have been with us since we started. So that's quite a couple of decades into PurePoint and just growing. And just for me, I like to ask a lot of questions. And what motivates each person is very different from the next person. And so by doing that, I really learned a lot from my team and my employees. I have a really like an open door policy, really a practice. Anyone can call me at any time, which sometimes when a manager joins my organization, they are like, what, that's not the right way of doing it. They have to go to the
Mm.
manager first, but we've known each other for a long time. Anyone can go talk to anyone if they feel comfortable or not comfortable. And sometimes it's in a social way. Sometimes it's in a business aspect. So I learned a lot from my team, and we're building something together. I think it's really good to get everybody on the same vision and an understanding that we're RPO and things change dramatically, and we have to flex to those needs. So one day they might be helping out on a project that is very different from whatever they've experienced in the last 3 years. But it's an opportunity to learn and grow and be broader as a recruiter or as a manager on the team. So I think that seeing progression of growth, seeing a lot of flexibility in how people do the work. My team is very senior, so I don't tell them what to do. They have to tell me what is going on because they're very independent. They know how to do their job, and they do it independently, and they do it well, and that makes us all great as a team.
So I think I heard you say there that at the beginning that really like what in probably the most succinct way to describe the problem that
Mhm,
you face, particularly in your industry, is how do you retain people
mhm, mhm,
when there's just so much change. Now, of course,
mhm,
everyone's dealing with change, right? Every business deals with
mhm,
change. In talent, I think there's even more because of the things you mentioned, right? So you have, for one, when there's a downturn in an economy
mhm,
or even in
mhm.
an industry, if sales go down, people aren't recruiting anymore, right? They'll freeze hiring, and so then
Right.
you have to adapt to that. And even when times are good, like there's going to be tons of different requests for what people are
Mhm,
doing, where you don't really have like a turnkey model, right? You're always having to kind of reinvent yourself for your clients. Um, so it seems like you've solved the retention issue, right? Because and I would dare say the engagement issue; those are very closely related. But I mean, 91% internal staff retention for your company, despite the fact that that can be very taxing on people, knowing that there's a lot of change in terms of the demand for work and also what clients are asking for. But before we get into like how you solved it, can you maybe talk about early on just how painful it was at times when you realize when you go from, hey, everyone wants us, to now no one's really asking us to do anything, or they're asking us to do all these things that we haven't done before.
mhm.
Can you maybe just touch a little bit more on that, like just
Yeah.
how stressful that was or how painful it was?
Yeah. Well, in recruiting, it's never like a predictable morning at all. You could, you, it's like we need to hire 500 people yesterday. Either you're in that situation, or like we only need to hire 500 people in company wide all across our geographies. So this year. So it is very difficult. And I just say to my team, at the when we're really busy, we're going to get you help. We're going to talk to our clients and see what we can do to get our team more help, to get our clients more help. But at the same time, when nothing is happening, of course, we have to adjust because our clients have to adjust as well. They're going through the same things as we are. So it is a chance for us to kind of like take a little bit of a breather, hone our skills. So we support each other in our growth, and we have regular trainings. So whatever people aspire to learn, or we can connect them with the right resources to do that, whether it's a different type of recruiting, a different industry. I'm always, there's nothing better than experience. Something that you said earlier about when you go through a training, it's an event, and you can only retain 15% of what you learn in the class. And if you don't apply it pretty soon, right away on the job, you're going to lose that what you learned right away on day 3. So the thing is to at the right time, learn the skill at the right time, whatever the next thing is, put it into practice, even though maybe it's not a real project, but go help someone on another team
Mm.
that is doing exactly that, so that you could shadow that person and learn it and test yourself on it. And like anything, to learn anything, you got to practice, practice, practice. So I just encourage people to take a breather, learn what they need to learn so that they can be amazing at whatever it is that they want to achieve in their career. And it's a time to like just calm down and focus, because out of the turmoil and uncertainty comes innovation and opportunity.
Mm.
It's about looking for the right opportunities and being open-minded to those things. So maybe in perspective, that might help calibrate some people into focusing on the right things.
Well, I want to dig a little deeper into this. I think this is fascinating. So if I'm understanding you correctly, you're saying that when, you know, there's often times where you're just overwhelmed, right? And you don't
Mm-hmm,
have enough people to meet the demands of
mm-hmm,
your clients. And so then you kind of like you're probably your own service, right? Like we need to hire some
mm-hmm,
people, right, to keep up with the
mm-hmm,
demand. And then when people turn the hose off and they're like,
mm-hmm,
okay, we don't need to
mm-hmm,
hire for the next 18 months or whatever it is, or 12 months, and you have a downturn, to the extent that you can. I don't know that you can always do this, but it sounds like you're retaining your workforce. You're not just laying people off, and you've planned ahead of time to be able to to manage cash flow properly so that you can retain those people and say, hey, we have these ebbs and flows. We know that they're going to come. So let's
mm-hmm,
plan for them. And when there's a downturn, use that time to refresh,
mm-hmm,
to we're not overwhelmed. Let's everyone take a breather, recoup a little bit, and learn and grow. Am I
mm-hmm.
understanding that correctly? This is kind of the
Yes, it's evolved over time. In the past, we've just retained people because we know that it's temporary or whatever. So, and if that's the case, if it's going to be a 3-month issue or whatever, we try to see ourselves through, because everybody has a family, and you get to know everybody on a personal level. So it's very difficult. So if it's going to be a short-term issue, we try to identify some learning opportunities, some other work. But if it's as long as this year has been, that is not something that we can accommodate for, as a company, to be able to be able to do that. However, it's a small community of professionals, so people do understand if you're experienced enough in this industry, you can kind of see what's happening. I personally know have friends that haven't worked in about a year, 6 months to a year, and that's quite a long time. And
Mhm.
they've been a part of the company for quite some time, on and off. They can do their own thing. They can come back when the time is right. But I think it's being open to what's out there, and it's very important to, as a recruiter, to have other uh, skill set, whether it's managing, whether it's management skills, or whether it's as an HR business partner, whether it's changing industries. Other industries are still hiring. Maybe right now it's technology, and that's been the core client base of PurePoint for a long time, Silicon Valley companies. And so now we've been innovating and branching out to make sure that we have cover wider industry in the last 6 years or so. So we do cover chemicals industry, we cover healthcare, semiconductors, all kinds of different industries, so that in one, you can't just rely on technology all the time, because it will have a drastic pause and a drastic ramp. And so it is, we're well diversified, thank goodness.
Mm,
And then we want our recruiters and our team to be well diversified, to study up, to understand different industry. Healthcare recruiting is very different from technology recruiting, and what's used to recruit doctors, and people that are manufacturing products for the economy.
wow. So it sounds like you've got systems in place where you
Hmm.
can cover
Hmm.
3 months, maybe a little bit longer, right? If there's a where literally people aren't really working at all, right? They're just
Hmm.
learning with your company.
Hmm. Yeah.
And then beyond that, I mean, I'm sure there comes a point wherever that cutoff is where it's just cost prohibitive, where
Hmm.
you're starting to really bleed
Hmm.
cash. You can't do it
Hmm.
forever unless you're Amazon or somebody like that, right? You could, in theory, do that. I don't think their
And
stockholders would like it, but
yeah, well, Amazon, couldn't do it either. They had to let go of their workforce several times, because Amazon's pretty big with AWS, and also the trucks that come and deliver, our
right,
stuff,
yeah,
and their technology platform, and so there is just I can't think of any company that can just sustain that for a long period of time.
no,
So
yeah. So
yeah.
your approach sounds just amazing to me. In terms of I think everybody experiences ebbs and flows. There's sales cycles that are either longer or shorter, and sometimes the
Hmm.
economy, there's just in general sales are up or down,
Hmm.
and what depending on what the economy is doing or different industry. So to have the foresight to think, it sounds like one issue you solved was just, well, how do we make sure we kind of save up for a rainy day, so to speak, right? So you
Yes.
can float
Yes.
payroll, and help people stay on and learn. But that
Mhm.
also, it sounds to me like that forward thinking not only helped you create a culture where people want to be a part of, because I'm sure no one gets upset when you're like, hey, we don't have revenue for 6 months. We can't keep people who were on that project because there's no revenue for that project. No one's upset with you for letting them go at that point. But the fact that you're willing to pay people for 3 months, maybe a little bit longer, to do nothing but learn must build just amazing loyalty with the team members. But it sounds like it helps you too, because you're cross training these people, and you realize, like, okay, you launched with tech, right? Recruiting for tech, which was your bread
Mhm.
and butter. But you realized, if we only do that when there's a
Mhm.
downside, when the tech industry retracts, which it does every
Mhm.
now and then,
Mhm.
um, you're in trouble, right? So you have people who are cross trained from multiple industries, which was part of
Yeah.
your forward thinking, right? Of investing
Mhm.
and training people when sales were down for you.
Yeah.
Sounds like your business is more robust because of that. Probably wasn't your motivation, though, right? Your motivation was probably just to take care of your people. Would you say, or did you kind of
Yeah.
already know that going in, that like, wow, if we not only take care of people, but we cross train them, it's a benefit for us because we're diversified and we're not as dependent on one niche.
Yes, I do. I care about my team a lot, and I want them to do well. So that's where the investment is, and that's the core foundation. At the same time, we have to, it's an opportunity, like I mentioned, to innovate, and it's an opportunity to do something different, which is really trying to use technology to better our processes, so it's not heavily reliant on just people. What it does is it gives our team better access to tools and systems to be able to communicate better, to even have candidates ready and available using AI, so that there's better matching, so they can be efficient. They don't have to call 10 people to get a no, but maybe it's only three, and
Mm,
it's the right type of profile, to just keep ourselves organized, and to go back on a previous project when they're working on something similar, so that they don't have, they can be ready right away on day one. I think the most important thing is when we launch off with a client, it's like we're all ready, we're trained, we know what we need to do. We can, go back and pull something that we've already learned, and go into the next thing ready to go. So I think it's time, like when it's slow, it's to build, to be innovative, to think out of the box, build something amazing, automate some things, change out the tools and get ready for the next launch and the next product, or when the market, comes back. And hopefully it comes back in a huge force, and we're going to be ready.
Nice. Yeah. Wow. Um, yeah, there was something that you just triggered, and I think I might have lost it here. But it was like you said something that I just thought was pretty ingenious in terms of the preparing. Oh, yeah, it's just that you can't really do that when everybody is. So when things are going really well, I mean, it's probably just crazy sometimes in recruiting. Like you said, you
Mhm,
sometimes have clients
mhm.
saying, "We need to hire 500 people 2 weeks ago," and now you're just scrambling. So you can't be working on process improvement and
No,
leadership development and things like that during those periods. At least probably not very successfully because everyone's just so busy. So really taking advantage of those downturns is like, okay, well, let's create cycles for learning and development and growth and process improvement. Um, just sounds brilliant. So is that kind of what you would say is the summary of how you solve the retention problem, is to just really embrace the cyclical nature of your business? And
yeah. I think we have to embrace it and plan for it, like you said, Matt. Like planned for that day. That day always comes after a certain amount of time. It comes, but then it's temporary. It goes away. So we're just gonna use that time to plan and build and make ourselves stronger. And we're all in it together. We support each other and the larger talent acquisition community. Um, even seeing some of our clients, maybe they don't even know if they have a job sometimes, and so it's not just us, it's our clients as well, and to have a lot of empathy when it comes to like people and what they aspire to be and where they are in life, and then that they also have they're just like us. So yeah.
well, thank you so much, Alyssa, for sharing these insights. This is, yeah, I've paused a couple times and just been thinking about, okay, how do I apply some of these things in our organization? And I think when we're done, I'm gonna sit down and jot some notes down. But you've definitely spurred some new thoughts. So thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me here on Business Leadership Today.
Thank you, Matt.
And for those of you who'd like to get in touch with Alyssa, learn more from her, you can follow her on LinkedIn. Pretty easy. It's Alyssa is ALYSSATHACH is her last name, Thach. And we'll have a link to her profile on LinkedIn in the show notes at businessleadershiptoday.com. The website for the company is PurePoint.com, and we'll have a link on the Business Leadership Today website as well for that. And before we sign off here, I do want to send a shout out to Caleb West, who produces the podcast and does a great job. Thank you, Caleb. And for you, the listener, until the next time I have a chance to interact with you and hopefully serve you in some way, I wish you great success building and sustaining an organization that's making a positive impact on your team members and on our global community. Bye for now.